I'd like to thank everybody for joining me today. Today, I want to talk about using phantom stock plans to help recruit and retain our key employees. As we look at this, every one of our owner clients has to find a way to attract, reward, and keep key people. And as you start looking at this, when a business owner is recruiting their key talent, they have to have a great compensation structure, but they also have to look at other ways to be unique. And then when we get into rewarding these key people, the big part of this is there again being unique, but making sure that we recognize that human capital and how best we can find the right people, reward the right people, and finally it comes down to retaining the right people. We want to tie them into this long-term value proposition that we have with our business to make sure that they feel like they're part of the solution, that they feel part of the company. One of the great strategies that we can use is phantom stock. Phantom stock is a nice ownership style value sharing. And this creates an opportunity for the employees, these key employees, to see the progress that they're making, see that the value that they're bringing to the growth of the company actually helps reward them as well. So the big part of this is the phantom stock can solve all three of these: the recruit, reward, and retain, with ownership style motivation, but no actual ownership transfer. So we're not actually giving them ownership, but they get to be compensated based off the ownership style motivation. So, what is the phantom stock plan? Phantom stock plan gives an employee the right to receive cash tied to the value or appreciation of a stated number of shares without actually issuing stock. Now, why is this important? Because if you take it from the employee's standpoint, they get to see growth. They get to participate in the growth of the business, bringing their talent, whether it's in management or production, whatever their role is in the company, as long as they're doing their job and doing it exceptionally well, they're going to help the value of this company grow. Now we can tie their compensation, this bonus structure, into the appreciation of that stock value. Now, the big part of this is we're not going to have any dilution in the shares of the company. We're not actually giving the employee ownership of the company. We're just going to track something that matches the ownership value. So there's no actual dilution of shares and no actual equity given. So if you think about this, the cash payout tracks the value appreciation. And at some point in the future, we're going to have a liquidity event. So we're going to tie this to a time frame of 5, 10 years, whatever it is, so that the employee can be invested in the growth of the company. But they know at the end of this plan, they're going to receive a cash payment, not stock. So as we look at this, the owner can align the incentives given to their key employee without issuing shares or changing the capitalization table of the company. So why owners and employees use it? That's the big part of this. What does it really do for everybody? Number one, it's alignment without dilution. I like that, alignment is, as an owner of a business, your growth, your incentive is to create growth of your business. Well, can we bring this employee mentality into more of a owner mentality so that they can see that they're going to help grow the value of this company? They're not going to receive actual ownership, so we're not diluting our owner's share of the company. So think about the benefits to the company. They get to retain and motivate their key employees. These key employees know that longer, if they stay during this phantom stock plan time period, as long as they're helping grow the value of the company, they're going to receive compensation based on that. It aligns the incentives with the performance. There again, what's the goal? What does an owner of a company want to see? Would they want to see the value of their company grow? as the value grows, the cash flow grows, the everything aligns for revenue in alignment with expenses. But as the owner of the business, they don't have to actually give up equity. So all of that's the benefits to the company. Now let's take a look at benefits to our key employee. Number one, they get a share in the business growth. So if they're working hard and they're making a contribution that they need to this company, they're going to see that, they're going to see their compensation, that bonus, it's going to be paid out in cash, not illiquid stock. And they get to see an effort connected to that value. So now we've taken our owner, they get to bring in the right employees. They're going to reward these employees and retain them with a benefit that ties to the growth of the value of the company. We don't have to give up stock. We don't have to give up ownership to these key employees. But the key employees know at the end of this, they're going to receive a cash payout, and they don't have to worry about selling stock or what do they do with this illiquid stock. They're not going to receive stock. They're actually going to receive a cash benefit. So this is useful when the owner wants ownership style motivation without changing capitalization of the company. There again, everything comes together the right way. So if we're going to give this benefit to our key employees, we have to start looking at the process. Number one is there's going to be a grant of phantom shares. So we're going to have to identify, is this 2%, 5%, 10% of the ownership of the shares of the company? So think about that. Are we willing to give up 10% of the growth to our key employees if they perform and drive up the value of the shares? Number two, you've got to be able to track company value. The worst thing you could ever do in this is not be clear as to what the starting point value is and what the ending point value is. And it's got to be valued in a way that the employee can track it. Can't just be, well, I think it's worth $1 million and now I think it's worth $2 million. I think does not track to the value. It actually has to be valued, and it has to be valued in a way that the employee can see that the value is not being manipulated, whether that's a third-party appraisal, whether that's based on some type of EBITDA calculation, whatever it is, we want to make sure that value is set and the value can be tracked. Finally, the owner of the business, our business itself, has to pay cash at the agreed time. It's one where we're going to set a time period for this phantom stock plan. There again, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, we're going to have the starting value, we're going to have the ending value, but as soon as that ending value is calculated, we have to be ready to pay that cash bonus. So that cash bonus can be paid out of company assets. They can use the business cash flow or obligations, available assets, to be able to pay out this amount to our key employee. It would always be beneficial to have some kind of a sinking fund, setting aside money for that future obligation. And now that, if it's going to be, let's say, $1 million payout, well, the last thing we want to know is, 5 years from now, well, now our business has to come up with an extra $1 million. But along the way, if they'd been setting that aside in a sinking fund, they're ready to make that payment. Finally is using life insurance. Now, life insurance is a great funding tool here because it can be set up so the cash value is becoming that sinking fund. And we also now, if we have that life insurance in place, that could also be set up as key man for our key employees, in case of a premature death. So life insurance, is a good asset to have on the books of the company and can solve several different, issues here. Our sinking fund, our key man, those types of benefits that would benefit the company over the long term. So at the end of the day, the funding and payout terms should be designed before the promise feels real. We want this to be a real promise. We want our employee to feel how real it is. But at the end of the day, it's got to be workable for both the business and for the key employee. So I appreciate everybody being on. If you have questions, reach out. If not, we'll talk again next week. Thank you.